Hello and welcome back to NoBS. Today we return to talking about video gaming, specifically a very popular game that came out last week that is seeing some backlash that is probably to be expected in this day and age. I'm of course talking about Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. This is the latest installment in not only the Call of Duty franchise, which is a first-person shooter kind of game, military usually, but they have this subtitle called Black Ops, which is more focused on spy stuff like operations, like infiltration and rescuing people and stuff like that, which is fitting in this setting because it's apparently based on the Cold War. Now, for those who don't know their history or aren't too familiar with American politics, essentially the Cold War was a long-running kind of conflict between America and the Russians, between the United States and the United Soviet Socialist Republic, USSR, or the communists as we used to call them back in the day. Essentially, after World War II ended in 1945, it turned into this sort of standstill between America and Russia, between capitalism and communism. This lasted for many decades. There were lots of little proxy wars and lots of other stuff going on. The Cuban Missile Crisis and other things happened. But it appears that this part in this game is taking place during, or at least mostly during, the 1980s portion of that conflict of the Cold War. And that's interesting, and that's what's brought us to this story, because during the 1980s, the American president for most of that time was none other than Ronald Reagan, a very legendary, very classic conservative Republican president. He brought us back from some pretty crazy stuff from the 60s and 70s, and the 1980s were a good turning point for America. We got back and unemployment went down, people were buying houses again, the economy was booming. He even arguably actually helped us win the Cold War against Russia by engaging with them in these sorts of more proxy battles. The Star Wars space defense program was something that Reagan came up with, among other things. And that's what we're talking about today, because Reagan is in this new game, and leftists hate Reagan because he's a conservative, and they actually like communists more than capitalists. So we're going to talk about that more. We're going to go over an article soon, but first, let's take a quick moment to check out our sponsor. All you have to do is cover the shipping costs, and you could get these awesome police coins right away, just in time for not only Black Friday shopping, but also as, say, a Christmas gift for someone you love. I mean, the police are the people that protect us from criminals and save our lives. They're the real heroes in our country, and since they're under attack each and every day by the left, the people trying to defund them, I say we actually do the opposite and support the police, and the best way to do it is to get your hands on this free coin. This 2020 police coin giveaway can be yours today if you click the link below this video. All you have to do is cover shipping costs, and you could get this free coin delivered really quickly. And check out that link below and get yourself a free coin. Thanks for your time, and now back to the show. Great, now that that's out of the way, let's jump right to the article, which has a title that gets straight to their point. It says, in case you missed it, Reagan was a scumbag. And then there's a picture of Reagan from the video game, like a HD digital representation of him. Looks pretty good to me. The graphics look good. I like this premise, actually. Now that I see this and hear these leftists hating on the Reagan stuff, it kind of actually makes me want to play this game more. Like, I want to get into it because it seems like Reagan is kind of portrayed in a positive way. Now, I'm not sure how that's going to play out 100%. I wouldn't doubt this game being a little woke too, maybe having a more nuanced approach. Reagan wasn't perfect. Let's not be rewriting history or anything like that. I mean, I liked Reagan. Mr. Reagan is a YouTube channel and a fan of Reagan who's been on this show. We love Reagan. He was great, but yeah, he wasn't perfect. There were certainly mistakes and controversies during his presidency. I'm sure some of them might come up in the game, but the point here is Kotaku is a really, really terrible leftist gaming journal rag website. They hate anything conservative. That's why they're calling this great president a scumbag for no good reason. And they're essentially attacking this game because it has Reagan in it, and they probably wanted them to totally bash Reagan and make the conservatives look awful. In addition, it's kind of bad for the left because they like communists in Russia and they like these left-leaning socialists. So the fact that this game is likely you as an American defeating the communists, that's going to really trigger them too. And that's what's going to lead them to have this backlash. America's 40th president was a lot of things: a right-wing talk radio host, a Hollywood actor, a red scare monger, a charismatic liar. A great leader wasn't one of them, but for some reason reason, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War seems keen to revive that long-standing conservative fantasy. I can only guess how many hours and how many indie game budgets went into meticulously detailing every weathered crack, mole, and discoloration in Ronald Reagan's 70-year-old face so he could tell a room of CIA spooks in a voice of unwavering fatherly assurance to go do crimes in foreign countries. Now, this is just a gross mischaracterization. I mean, come on, I'm sure there were some spy games going on during this time. I'm not doubting that Reagan might have made a mistake or two, but he was a great leader. He took our country to great heights. The 80s were a great time for America. It was like this great era of lots of cool movies, lots of progress, computers were coming up, technology, all kinds of stuff. It was a good time. It wasn't like we're in a depression. We weren't in some kind of terrible place. Reagan wasn't getting people killed. Like, he wasn't this kind of terrible liar, red scaremonger. See, this is them going pro-red, like pro-communist, because he was against communists. They're trying to attack Reagan because he was a conservative. And you can see where this is going. This is kind of them bashing him, calling him names, making fun of his weathered face, things like that. It's just really petty political pushing, and it's revising history. It's them kind of trying to say, hey, it's not even it's undisputed. Everyone hates Reagan. Reagan was the worst, but that's not true at all. That's not even close. If everybody really hated Reagan, he wouldn't have won in such a landslide in his re-election campaign. I mean, he won California. This guy won every single state almost during his re-election. I believe it was 1984. So he was first elected in 80, then he re-elected in 84, and then he came out of office in 88. I believe that's the time frame. So yeah, here's the Reagan re-election maps. The only state he lost was Minnesota, and I believe that's because that's where his opponent was from. That's the only place he got any traction. But here Reagan won California, Texas, Florida, New York, every big state. I mean, if this guy was that disliked, if he was that terrible, this would not have happened in his re-election. That's the point, and that's what I want to point out before we move forward with this Kotaku article, which is just bollocks. They are just totally biased, and Kotaku is one of the worst. And the way they're framing up Reagan is really, really disappointing, un-American too. It's very, very disgraceful. I can also only guess why, in an otherwise cynical single-player campaign full of untrustworthy spies and conflicting truths, Treyarch and Raven Software chose to portray Reagan, whose legacy is now marked by scandal and disgrace, even in many centrist circles, as the commander-in-chief of unimpeachable integrity and clear-sighted decision-making. Instead, Reagan provides the game's clear moral through line, reminding the player that no matter how messy the fog of war or the spycraft nations use to influence geopolitics, the United States' intentions are good, and its safety and dominance must be safeguarded at all costs. So here, they're basically mad that they did portray Reagan in a good light. He didn't have many things wrong with him in his portrayal. Apparently, they thought they should have portrayed him as some kind of evil monster, but that's just not the case. This guy's living in a delusional world. They're in a bubble. They don't really know how Reagan was viewed overall, especially not at that time, not in the 80s where he was really well liked and well respected throughout the world. He led the country in lots of great things. As we saw in that political map, he won every single state besides Minnesota in his re-election. I mean, the guy had a mandate. The guy had a following. People believed in him. People trusted him. Reagan was a good for this country. This guy is just big mad because he's not a liberal. He wants everyone to be liberal. He wants everyone to be communist. They don't like capitalism and things like Reagan, what he stands for, conservatism, standing for the American family, keeping America great. Make America Great was actually derived from a campaign slogan from Reagan. Trump borrowed from that. A lot of people would say Trump is like the modern Reagan. That's probably another reason Reagan gets looked down upon, because he's so similar to Trump, and they compare these guys two together. They're both kind of these guys coming from an acting place. Like Reagan was an actual movie actor. Trump was an entrepreneur / TV show host. So the comparisons are there. The Trump derangement syndrome is in this article, and now they're attacking this Call of Duty game for portraying an American president in a good light. Like, that's a crime now. The scene introducing Reagan begins with a political aide complaining that the Black Ops Cold War's protagonists are being too paranoid about shadowy Soviet menaces, and later that illegal clandestine operations could blow up in the administration's face. The CIA agents, framed as world-weary badasses, fire back that everything they do is illegal, and if they don't take action, innocent people will die. When a Secret Service agent enters the room, everyone goes silent, stands, puts out their cigarettes. Reagan strides in full of swagger and his big boss pants pulled up tight to break the bureaucratic gridlock. The Soviet menace is real, the fate of the free world is at stake, and you and your spy bros will blow up whatever you need to ensure that the US remains top dog. That sounds good to me. Now, this is like a portrayal. This guy's trying to make this sound like it's a bad thing, like they're evil or they're promoting something wrong, but this is just like pro-American, badass, macho stuff. This is manly men kind of attacking. This is a 1980s based game taking the American side as they should. We shouldn't be taking the side of Russia. There's a reason the communists fell. There's a reason why we don't like communism. It's a bad ideology. It ruins countries. It takes money away from people. It doesn't give you anything to work towards. Any kind of big success is taken away from you. And that's why Reagan is good. And that's why we see this video in this game having a good point, making a good sign here. I really appreciate it. I think it's a good thing. And I think if you see something like Kotaku's this triggered about, it's safe to say it's good. And this actually does make me want to play this new game even more. Like, I kind of wish I had a PlayStation 5. I would try to rock this game, honestly, if I did. I'm not sure that's going to happen anytime soon. We have been demonetized here on the channel. I haven't talked much about that, but they are trying to take us down here. We're still going to make videos. We're still going to push other stuff in other ways to help support the channel. But for now, just keep watching, keep liking, keep subscribing, and keep on fighting the good fight. So thanks for watching today's video. Thanks for your time. Make sure you comment your thoughts on everything below. Subscribe if you're new, and hit that bell for notifications too. Until next time, have a great day.